Well, hello, friends. Welcome to Afterburner. It is Ryan Pinder alongside Mike Gould. Sirs, ladies, acquaintance, pal, viewers, other pronouns I'm not familiar with. Welcome aboard. Let's go get it. The Calgary Flames fall 3-1 to the Washington Capitals, the top team in the NHL, in a contest that, looked like the under was going to be a good bet. Turned out to be at the very end with a little drama, and we had a little Rasmus Andersson drama. Mike, good evening. How are you?
You know, Ryan, I'm excellent. I am a little worse off for having watched that game in its entirety.
Is that right?
It was okay.
You'd rather be in a coal mine today than doing post game on a Flames game?
Yeah, it's a either or. But it's ultimately, I mean, it was a game that had some nice flow in the middle part. I thought in the third it kind of got a little choppy. But you know, you can't complain really about a 1-goal game to a certain extent. It's just another game where the Flames just couldn't get that extra goal, where they were always playing from behind. And I mean, it's tough because the first goal that was given up, let's not get into it right away, but you know, it's sort of on the defenseman. I mean, it's a goal that you might want to see the goaltender stop, but ultimately it is what it is. And it's tough playing games and watching these games when they're always sort of one down.
We will get into it in a moment, but a reminder, this program brought to you by Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. You can open an account today with Bet365 and bet on a huge range of markets, including taking the overs on Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen's shots, which I told you to do this morning, and you would be very happy if you did that earlier today. Download the app, use the code NATION when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Being one of the barn burner family of shows here on Afterburner, we also have our Super Chats. The proceeds from the Super Chats, if you want to get a comment and get it read, are going to the Youth Centers of Calgary, a great charity in Calgary where youth are accepted as they are, a safe, healthy place to go after school before their families are home. You want a little quiet time, you want to read a book, you want to play sports, maybe we're growing plants in the garden, maybe you're learning an instrument. Great, safe place where kids can get a break from the chronic stress that is some of their realities. So we love supporting that. Get your comments and questions in. We'll get to those throughout the program and your Super Chats as well. But Mike, you started with the first goal against. Why don't we start with the first goal against? Jack, let it roll as Mackenzie Weegar, who is actively auditioning for the spot on the Canadian Four Nations squad, would like to play this differently.
Finally, behind yourself, right to a player like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is having a really nice season for the Caps.
Yeah, it's
especially when they're down, 1-0, 2-0, and it's just another game where they were always sort of fighting it to get back even.
Yes, they were. They would even it up. Let's go to the second period. By the way, the shots were 13-5 in favor of Calgary in the first period. It was Pierre-Luc Dubois was one of the central characters of this game tonight, but it was the first half of the game. There'd be a serious change of main characters for the second half of the game, as we'll get to in a moment. But it was Dubois in the box for unsportsmanlike conduct, apparently giving it to the officials for a call not made. And they said, "You want a call? Here's a call." Sending him to the box, which put to the Flames on the power play. And Tyson Barrie, with his whole body towards the net, it's coming in with momentum. Everyone's thinking Kuzmenko's going to shot, and he softly puts it right back on the tape. Barrie rips it, and Coleman with the spinning tip, getting in front, turning, tip it, no chance.
Elevation, and it just makes it so much more difficult to deflect. And so it's a really well-placed shot, and Coleman's the beneficiary.
Yes, that was a goal that made it 1-1. Again, another penalty would lead to the next goal. After it was Dubois scoring and then going to the box, it was Coleman scoring, and then he to the box for what I'm calling the chop.
Yeah.
The closing hand on puck. I don't know what the throwing it after closing the hand. Well, it was a penalty, no doubt. And I think Blake Coleman probably, what would we call there? Just
just a brain fart. Yeah. There was a Penguins player once. I'm trying to remember who it was.
I blame Coleman for this loss. Thank you, Arthur.
Who picked up the puck like off the ice in his own zone and just threw it out to center. And that's sort of what that reminded me. I thought that the Flames were lucky not to have a penalty shot called against them because it was so close to the goal crease.
Sure.
Although, quite frankly, with how quickly Washington scored on the ensuing 5-on-3, they might have preferred a penalty shot because it ultimately just sort of broke down. You see there where, Dylan Strome just has an eon to let that one go.
If you see where Alex Ovechkin's located, that draws Rasmus Andersson up. And I'm not suggesting Rasmus is out of position. What I'm suggesting is you don't leave Alex Ovechkin wide open on a 5-on-3 and space for Dylan Strome. It's funny. It's like, how does Ovi still do it? Everyone knows he's going to shoot it there. Like, why don't they adjust? Well, you're seeing teams adjust, and that's how other guys score on Washington's power play. One of the most feared shots in hockey. He's got to respect that, but it leaves Strome more time and space where he can catch it, fumble it, turn it to the backhand, and then score.
Yeah, and it's the second game in a row where the Flames have had the momentum a little bit, and something has just happened that has turned the tide and never really recovered. I mean, in the Winnipeg game, they were down 2-1, and it really looked like they were going to battle back in that game, and then they give up just a backbreaker of a goal late in the second, and that was it. And this one it was a 1-goal game. It was a little bit closer, but that goal going in just felt like it really deflated a lot of the energy out of the saddle. Because after Coleman scored, you really felt like the Flames had a pretty good chance to take the lead.
It's true. They were the back-to-back penalties were tough. The Coleman hand of puck came 8 seconds after Puhal's. What would you call it? A hook or I'm not exactly sure what they called it, but he got the hand right in the midsection there.
Yeah.
They'd add one in the third. We'll take a look at it before we dive into a few other topics. I feel for Tyson, who had a really good game in his first back since November, but this was the Roadrunner against the Coyote here. This was not close.
And
Mimi
Aliaxi Protas on himself isn't really the fastest guy on the Capitals, and he just made Barrie look like
he's huge. A couple strides on him before he gets to the red line. They're even by the middle of the ice.
Look at this.
Look at
The part that makes me laugh.
The
part that makes me laugh.
Cruising.
It's tough because he did have a good game, but that was, they both wore number 8. That was Barrie's Nick Grossman moment of the game, and it's tough, right?
Hey, look, Barrie's fine. Game. And where are you in the contest? You're, I guess, on a power play trying to score. It's a tough spot for anyone when you're chasing a breakaway. But look, he had a great game. This is not about Tyson Barrie.
He was the third star.
He was the third star. Let's get right to it. What are your thoughts? 3-1 final. Those are all the goals. What did you make of Tyson Barrie? Is he a guy we should see more of? They literally used him so little. They got a conditioning stint for him. It has been months, and I mean more than 2 months since he played his last hockey game. 2.5 months.
It was weird that they didn't use him. And I don't even think that he was necessarily banging down the door to get back in the lineup, but it's just strange that Daniil Miramonov, who I have liked at points as a Flame, but he was given such a long leash, specifically in a top 4 role, which have we ever really seen Miramonov play on the bottom pairing?
No, I brought it up today.
It's been
I was told it's easier to play in the top 4 than the third pair.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Disagree entirely.
Yeah. But then, Barrie, I never really saw a whole lot in his however many games he played before that long stretch on the shelf that was necessarily, me saying, okay, this guy is unplayable. He's fine. He's fine.
He looks like a 7-8.
He looks like Jake Bean.
And when you're rotating Miramonov and Hanley all the time, I don't know why it couldn't have been Tyson Barrie here or there. Now, I get it. If the power play was struggling, and it did for the first month or so of the year, it's been better since. That's another reason to go to him. And Kevin Ball coming out doesn't, let's go replace that with, that's not the swap. But yeah, why even have the guy around if you're not going to use him a bit? He's got some skills, as you saw tonight. Put the puck to net with authority. It's his point shot that gets tipped in, that ties the game, that gives him a chance to win on this night in a sense. And I'll pull up the stat sheet tonight. But yeah, there's Tyson Barrie, 2 shots on net, a hit, a missed shot, 3 shot attempts, a post, which doesn't get credit. That would be the missed
crossbar,
yeah. And yeah, damn, that was a heck of a chance he had there. And 17-20 of ice time. A lot of special teams late, but it's not a guy you need to bury for the next 2.5 months. I'll tell you that.
No, the Flames have had many worse defensemen suit up for them, on regular bases. And Barrie, it was just weird that they signed him in the first place, and then they didn't see any room for, it just sort of makes you wonder what the thought process was, what the messaging was between management and the coaching staff and the player. And it was just a strange circumstance for a guy who I remember when he was in Nashville, it was very much a talking point of this guy doesn't like that he's not playing.
Mhm.
And now he signs here and he's not playing. And
Well, when you're on a PTO versus a deal that's paying you 4, it's probably different.
That's fair.
When you have the whole league able to get your services and for months no one calls.
Yeah. No, it's fair.
And then it's September. It's a come to camp. And maybe if you're good enough for your learner contract, like I think he clearly understands where he is in the NHL hierarchy. But the notion that he was going to come in and blow people's doors off and earn a long-term deal, like that's no.
Well,
you could play him though.
And even the comment that I see there, coach and GM not on the same page, but this was Ryan Huska's guy. Like he played for Ryan Huska in Kelowna. Like that was sort of the whole narrative around them getting Tyson Barrie in the first place, was that there's sort of some familiarity there.
Well, and the challenge that Tyson faces is that their most dependable non-good NHLer, like hard and fast NHL, like Uyghur, Andersson, and Ball, those guys are NHL defensemen.
Sure.
Everything else is kind of like, well, he's in the right spot, or if we slot him here, we're playing with that guy, and not in this role, maybe in that. Like Braden Pahal's been their best third pair defenseman.
Sure.
He's a right shot, and so now are you going to ask them to play Tyson Barrie on his offside, which they did tonight again? I don't know why. Like he's played the right side exclusively. If you're going to give him third pair minutes, if there was room on the right, that would help. And then you've got Uyghur and Andersson that are righties, and yeah, sometimes Uyghur will slide to the left, but that's to make a fit with Miramanov, who they obviously like more in a top 4 role than Barrie, because we haven't seen Barrie in that role almost at all. I feel like if he was a less shot, there might be more opportunities in the last couple of months.
Yes, I agree. And it is one of the strangest collection of defenders that I can remember. It's just, it's such a mishmash of different pieces that, they're taking flyers on, seeing what the upside is. And this is sort of the result, where you have Joel Hanley, who's a 33-year-old journeyman who's never played more than 45 games in a season. You have Tyson Barrie, who's, sort of at the end of his rope. You have Daniil Miramanov, who is, I still have no idea what the hell he is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is a weird collection. And at the same time, where you have no real lefties in the NHL at all. I mean, aside from Kevin Ball and Jake Bean and, Joel Hanley, it's not like a murderer's row of left-handers. And then pretty much all the guys in the American League who are playing well on defense are left-handers.
At least the offensive guys. Like,
even not necessarily. I mean, Yan Kuznetsov and Ilya Solovyov are both playing quite well, and it's lefties. Just both lefties, yeah. And it's just kind of like making you think, okay, is there an opportunity there? And but it's tough because they already have these 8 guys, and you want to get them all in. And so I'm curious to see if, what the game plan is going toward the deadline. And if you maybe see some of the guys in the American League moved out, it's interesting.
I do think the standings are dictating a lot of the decisions. I think if this team was in, 8 points out, sitting 9th from the bottom, you'd be seeing more kids up. Not that you haven't with the forwards, but you may have kicked tires on a Solovyov or a Kuznetsov already. I know Jeremy Poirier is a guy that's suffered a pretty debilitating injury last year, but there's been some eyebrow-raising play this year.
He's been outstanding.
As a 22-year-old, maybe it's time for him to get a sniff, especially because he's an offensive guy that plays the left. They don't have any of those in the system. All the other lefties are sort of the stay-at-home types.
Yeah, for sure.
You think about Uyghur, Andersson, Brstevich, Muse, Peric, Barrie. Those are all righties.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want someone to run a power play the left shot, I mean, Poirier might be your best chance right now. It's not Kevin Ball and Joel Hanley. I'll tell you that for free. All right. We'll get to the schedule in a moment. Do want to tell you about the schedule. It's sponsored by Mike himself. Mike, take it away.
Sponsored by some good people, though.
Tell us about him, Mike.
Road Ahead is powered by Platinum Mitsubishi, home of the award-winning and industry-leading Outlander PHEV.
What does PHEV stand for?
Plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and it's a 7-seater. It's a really, really nice, stately. That's the word that we use to describe it. Stately. You can come up, visit the showroom, 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast, just over by Sunridge Mall, and we'll hook you up. It's got a 10-year, 160,000 kilometer powertrain warranty. Wow. This thing's going to be running until the Huberdeau contract runs out, and even more. So
3 years beyond that. Good.
Yeah. So 10 years, 160K. That's sort of the big thing up at Platinum at Mitsubishi, 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast.
Okay, schedule. Jack's got a graphic for us. Let's fire it up. See what we got here. There it is. They will continue this 3-game homestand. It's really 6 of 7 at home is the way I view it. They go for a 1-game stop in Seattle on Sunday. It's also part of a back-to-back where that just feels like an island of a game. The rest are at home for a stretch of 6 to 7 there.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. These teams that they're playing coming up, it looks like a relatively easy slate for these next 3 games. Of course, they're never easy, and it's nice that they have some home games where they generally play a little bit better. But then you get into Toronto, Colorado. Those are a couple teams that have been really strong this season.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado buzzing a little bit. Natchez has been pretty darn seamless. A little bit better than I expected. I mean, he's already up at like 43 assists on the year.
Blake scored 2 times, hasn't he? Was a member of the Avs since the deal?
Drury.
Thank you. Sorry,
Drury.
Blake. Yes.
But yes. It's been a really nice little turn of events there for Colorado. I mean, losing Rantanen is tough. It's really tough. I think he gets underrated, underappreciated, but looking good. But yeah, I mean, you look at these next 3 games and say they're winnable, but then you also think back to sort of the end of November and then earlier this month where you had a couple games in a row there that were winnable and they end up losing all of them. And it's just kind of like, okay, what exactly is going to happen here?
Last we saw the Ducks, we were at Richmond's hammering wings. Jack was slobbering all over the place. So that might not be
That was
true.
right as the fire started.
It was the overtime, right?
That's right.
That was a game where the Flames did prevail, but they needed an extra 5 minutes to do so.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I remember of that game? I don't know why that's standing out. That was the Coronado hurt game.
That's
the Zary injury.
Yeah, and then
I knew there was an asterisk in my brain in that game.
Their next game was
the whole
postponed.
room went like this. Oh,
it was ugly.
No.
And it makes you wonder. I mean, what is going to be the game where Zary comes back, and how are things going to look? I mean, we can talk. Because we're gonna talk a little bit about how the depth of this team has looked in the last couple games here, and especially tonight with a new addition. But it's a team that is really missing that player, and especially tonight, where I grant they're playing against a very good goaltender, and it's a game with 2 very good goaltenders, and it's one of the rare games this year where Dustin Wolf has been out-dueled, and it's tough.
Logan Thompson
Awesome has been. It's a disgrace that he's not playing for Team Canada. He's been he's been a top 3 goalie in the league.
And look, Binnington, you could talk about the track record with me. The track record, he's won a cup, blah blah blah. Sure, Aiden Hill, sure. But I never really got the Mutombo hype train.
Yeah.
Kembe Mutombo, a good basketball player. No, for Canada, not Canadian. But again, I think Logan Thompson, not unlike the contract he got, the treatment he got from Vegas on the way out, you're a replaceable part. 1 year sort of prove it deal with Washington. He's done that. He's rewarded with a 6-year deal.
They traded Logan Thompson at the draft in Vegas during an autograph signing that he was doing at the draft in Vegas. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, I get it. Vegas sort of has that reputation. They sort of treat their players like they're disposable, but that one's kind of biting them in the butt. And I get they're having a good year. Aiden Hill is a solid goalie, but I don't know. I've always liked Thompson just a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Let us move. Adam Klapka returned to the lineup tonight. Thoughts on the hulking winger up from the Wranglers?
I really didn't like the penalty that he took on Tom Wilson, which I just thought was kind of needless, but it ended up
what it led to. We'll get to that later, but
yeah, obviously,
but
what happened after that, but I didn't like the penalty that he took in the first place. I just thought it was needless. And I didn't really find him that noticeable outside of, a couple little spurts here and there. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how much time he ended up playing. My guess is it'd be under 7 minutes. It was just, he was really not much of a factor to me.
I don't know where they're at with the fourth line. There's been a lot of moving parts. And now that Kuzmenko's out of the press box spell and into the top 9 and Zary's out, it sort of feels like a line that if Huska just doesn't play them in the third, you're like, again, and maybe that's all fourth lines, but there's been enough churn on it. Bishop's up, Cairns is up, then he's down. Lomberg's the immovable force. Rooney apparently couldn't get moved. Now he was out. Now he's back in. I feel like either they're looking for something or they're just abandoning the idea of it in a sense.
Rory Cairns showed more in one period of his first game than Adam Klapka has shown in the NHL this season. And
here's your ice time: 7:55 for Lomberg, 7:17 for Clark Bishop, 7 minutes on the button.
Wow,
for Adam Klapka. That's
I nailed shifts. That one. Nailed that one.
3 shifts a period.
Yeah,
on average. So.
Yeah, I mean, really, he was not a factor. And it's a shame because I like Adam Klapka and I think he's a good player and I think he's a good American Hockey League player. And I think he's going to be very valuable to the Wranglers as they try to go on another run here. But I just don't see the NHL upside. And I don't know if he's a player who they're going to have room for in the organization beyond this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of forwards coming. I'm just not sure this next year.
Yeah, it depends on what they do.
Gridden can't play in the A next year based on his CHL.
Nope. I mean,
status.
Basha goes either way.
Basha probably needs to play, given that he's hardly played this year and has missed time already in his career injury.
Yeah.
Hanzik is still there, but
probably got Suniev coming in.
Yeah, Suniev, they probably signed this spring. I would suggest they'll make a push to do it at least. So I don't know. But I kind of agree with you. I don't know what he is at the NHL level. He certainly is tall, and he had Tom Wilson angry for that. And that led to what I'm going to call Pinder's highlight of the night.
Yeah. It was really funny. I'll just let you go ahead with this because it was too good.
Rasmus Andersson has really embraced the role of the heel, and we watched Bill Guerin address the media and talk about how Rasmus dominated his team, and I'm so hurt after Tom Wilson sold. Rasmus would suggest the cross check from Klapka that led to a penalty, and Wilson didn't like that at all. Rasmus was not done. They got into the box and he did the old limp around the penalty box. Same thing. Oh, I'm so hurt.
My kidneys.
Tom, my kidneys. Geez. I'm so hurt. That's Tom Wilson, by the way.
It was so good.
Like if you're doing that to like Connor Garland, it's like, yeah, okay. Stop making fun. That's a guy that he's quite good at face punching. Like that takes some stones. And I think watching Rasmus for, his whole career in the NHL, he's a guy that plays with that edge. And you don't worry about him getting hurt so much as you're like, I think this is his fuel.
Sure.
He loves getting under the skin of other teams.
And you know what? I love the back and forth. They kept going at it in the penalty box. And even as a Calgary guy, when Protas scored and Wilson was just giving it to Backlund or to Andersson too, it's fair play, right? I mean,
that's
like, I thought that was great. So I thought it was great on both ends. I love that stuff in the game as long as it's, stays relatively clean. And it seemed like it was just sort of good, clean fun. I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit of back and forth chirping, getting under each other's skin, but I love that sort of stuff. It's just fun.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, that
the more the merrier
to the game, right?
The more the merrier.
Okay, let's continue to move. I want to tell you about the great time we had up in Jasper. Mike, were you jealous? Did you see the images?
I was in Winnipeg. I probably shouldn't have gone.
Hang on. So you chose to go on a road trip and watch the Flames in another city.
I did, and I went to Winnipeg.
And the game you picked was Winnipeg in January.
It was cheap.
Not for the first time when they played and were somewhat rested, but when they were whipping through in their third game in 4 nights and second half of a back-to-back with travel.
It was awful. I mean, it was, I had a really bad rental car. It wasn't a Mitsubishi. I had it was snowy. It wasn't that snowy, but it was snowy. I'll give it. The people were great. The rink is really nice. The rink is really nice. That was sort of the main reason I wanted to go, was to see the rink. I like these, smaller, more intimate venues.
Pike's got a great point here.
Pike.
This is Ryan Pike chiming in with the comments. Mike is a lovely person, but he might have the worst travel instincts of any person on the planet, end quote. And that indeed is a Pike bomb. That's correct.
I got a room at the Fairmont for $100 a night.
Really?
It's Winnipeg.
Right.
It's what and they played a horrible game. I mean, look, they didn't play a horrible game, but they kind of got let down a little bit with some goals that maybe shouldn't have gone in, and it was a tough one. But I appreciate the road atmosphere was good. Being in that building, and
How was the crowd?
it was a really good crowd, actually. I know Winnipeg's gotten
sold out or not quite, or
no,
close?
it was definitely a sellout.
Okay.
It was definitely a sellout, which I know they've gotten some flack for some empty seats, but it was pretty full.
So when Mike was gallivanting in the late January Winnipeg weather, we were just absolutely fighting it on gorgeous Lake Mildred in Jasper for the pond hockey tournament. Yeti was taking great care of us. I wanted to say a big shout out to Yeti. We've come back with a huge Yeti cooler which is pretty deadly. We're going to find a way to give that one away, or at least put it on set for a while before one of us steals it. We're not sure yet. It's red. It's awesome. It's got a pond hockey logo on there. They got this little AI thing. When you go to the website, you can make your own logos. So if you wanted to have like public pain and doctor, they would like AI this, image of public pain doing diagnosis on people and maybe some performing surgeries while in space, something like that. Also, they got some Valentine's deals on right now if you head to the website. So check out what's going on at Yeti, or just, grab some swag next time you need it. It's you gotta thrive in the cold weather, right?
I think a Yeti could be the Oilers Nation team's mascot. The way that those guys look.
Apparently, there's lots of trademark issues with
no kidding.
With naming things a Yeti. So careful. Crave the cold, built for the wild. Thank you, Yeti. Also, Booster Juice was the official puck sponsor of the tournament. We had a great time with them. Have you got the app? You got to get the app.
I do have the app.
Good. Get the app, because then you can get these Barrie points, and then you can turn those in for more incredible smoothies, food, good healthy food to fuel your life, Mike.
I
as
used
a busy salesman and writer
and Winnipeg
and talking
traveler.
Head and Winnipeg traveler.
I used it at the airport, actually.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was one of the only things open at the Winnipeg airport at 9 p.m.
Really? Yeah. So you didn't go to Winnipeg just so you could dunk on Winnipeg? You actually thought this would be a good idea? Or were you looking for fuel to like dunk on Winnipeg?
I got some friends down there. It was a fun time. It just was not a good game.
Not as good as the Booster Rewards app, that's for sure. Downloaded it today. And again, you can start earning those Barrie points for delicious, nutritious smoothies, drinks, and food that will get you through the day. Thank you to our sponsors of the Pond Hockey.
Flames got a Barrie point tonight.
They did.
There you go.
A tip from
there. You go.
Yeah.
Got a Kuzmenko point too.
Jack, can we bring you in for a moment? I don't know. Like Jack's set up, but he's not in studio today. He's at home. He's remote producing, which is always intriguing. Just get in our ears and say, yes. Hey guys, how you doing? If you're ready, Jack, you might just be busy in the mosh pit here. Comments are an absolute disaster.
They've been
Jack,
weird.
what the hell's going on in the comments tonight? Are people just fighting? You're banning people? Public Pain's hammering out all caps, yelling. What's
I know Public Pain's not too happy with me about Dan Vladar. I wrote an article where I didn't like Dan Vladar's performance against the Jets. What are your thoughts on Dan Vladar, Pinder?
Dan Vladar is going to be fighting for a job in the NHL this summer. He has not proven in 4 years to be above replacement level in my mind.
And I think,
I believe if you go grab Devin Cooley from the American League, you would get similar, if not better, performance from that goaltender, which means he's probably goaltender 50 through 80 in the world. And if you're going to be goalie 50 through 80, you better be an awesome teammate. You better grind when you get the opportunity. The numbers aren't good. He's had one good year. It's his first year here.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, the huge mountain of work that he's had here. He's made some great saves. He's had some great performances. He's battled hard. But at the end of the year, every year, you're looking at an 885 or an 890. And it's like, well, why is the other guy's numbers always better?
I guess the thing on my end, and it brings me no pleasure to say anything negative about a Flames player. Ultimately, I think the number one thing from my end is I would love it if Dan Vladar finished the season with a .930 save percentage. That would be the best thing.
The best thing that happened to Dan Vladar, the Flames, and this fan base is for him to win 10 games in a row, and they move him at the deadline for an asset. But at this point, I just don't look around and say, well, there's a team that Dan Vladar is clearly an upgrade on their backup, so much so that we're willing to give an asset to the Calgary Flames.
The only reason I brought it up is because Dustin Wolf tonight, he gives up the 3 goals and he finishes with a save percentage below 900. And, if Vladar had been in this game, it would have been sort of, a normal game. That's sort of the thing.
Under 900. Yeah.
That's
whereas
sort of
it feels an off night for
Whereas that's sort of where the disconnect is. That's sort of where it's different, where with Wolf, this is sort of the outlier. And even then, when it is the outlier, I think he had a pretty good game. Generally speaking, he kept Ovechkin at bay. I thought, we were sort of both sitting here wondering.
Yeah, I didn't think he had to make any 5-bellers, but I think that's also kind of a really stark difference when you watch the two play, is that Dan Vladar seems to always have to scramble to make a great save, despite being a much larger human. Clearly, technically and positionally, he's not nearly as good as Wolf. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's not what you want, and it's not what we want to see. We want to see everybody on the team do well, and so it's not something that I take pleasure in writing an article like that, but it's just it has to be pointed out.
And again, there's one limiting factor, I guess two, on how much talent you can accumulate in the NHL.
Yeah,
There's a salary cap and you have 50 contracts.
And you have 32 teams now. And,
is that right,
and
Mike?
you're probably going to have, probably by the end of the decade, you're going to have 34. And maybe by the end of the following decade, you're going to have 36.
We'll get back to the topic, being that teams only have 2 caps on talent, 50 contracts and a salary cap. Could you get the similar goaltending at a third of the price with Devin Cooley instead of Dan Vladar? I believe the answer is yes. I don't think he's 3 times the player. And I don't think he's, when you look around the league, he feels like a guy like not unlike where Dave Riddick was when he left, where it's like, could he turn into a good goalie? Yeah, he absolutely could. Has he proven to be one? Not for a long enough spell that anyone's going to give him any term and money.
I think the point,
like Dan Vladar's taking a pay cut next year.
Oh, for sure. But I think the point that, you're sort of seeing is even in a league where the talent pool is expanding, there's still room to sort of address things on the extremes, even when there are 32 teams now. And the fact of the matter is, when you have a goaltender who has an .887 save percentage over the last 3 seasons, you can do better.
887 over 3 years.
Yeah.
Large sample.
That's a large sample. It's not small.
And this year and Daryl's final year, I mean, structurally, not crazy leaky.
No. Not even.
Yeah. Is it Jack or are you beeping?
So it's me.
Still on. Sorry, Jack. We never end up getting to you. What the hell's going on in the comments here? Because it feels like it's what's the WWE event where there's like 20 guys in the ring all fighting? It's King of the Ring. That's what it feels like right now.
I'll keep it short. Payne is still pissed off about the Richmond's night.
Clearly,
yes.
Yes. Yes.
And
Payne has a bruised ego. He was right. Yes, Payne, you were right. We were trying to work.
Oh man,
he's right. He was right. Yes, cool. Are we better now? Do we need to send him a cake? We got half an eaten cake from the morning show. We love you, Payne, but you got to get over this.
Can I have a piece of cake?
Do you know Boomer? Are you familiar with him? Has he taken runs at anyone before, or is this like the Governor General you were talking to? All he does all day is take runs at people. I've worked with him for a decade. One time he took a run at you? Come on. Get over it.
I did not get threatened in Winnipeg.
Didn't get threatened.
I'll say that.
Now, is that going to make things worse for Payne or better? Did we
I have no idea. I'm just going along with the flow. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
All right, Jack, anything else for us? Let's go to the comments. What we got? I've got some other topics, but while we're into the while we've waded into the swamp,
I've got some good questions. We'll get through what you want to get through.
Yeah,
we'll put them at the end.
Okay, you want to do it at the end? We'll do it at the end. Now, I'm told we have got some Afterburner Pale Ale news on Afterburner itself, which is exciting to me. Now, here's the thing: we do have the newest, latest, and greatest collab with our pals at Origin Brewing, based in Strathmore, that have now opened up the OC, Origin Calgary. They thought, the Barnberta Blonde's going so well. Why don't we make you another one? Very much a different style of beer, a pale ale versus a blonde. Both delicious, both sensational. If you like a little hoppier of a beer, then absolutely you're going to love the pale ale. If you like something a little more yellow and bubbly, that's going to be the blonde for you, no question. And apparently it's now in like the Liquor Connect thing. If you own a liquor store, you own a bar, you want to get a keg,
go get it.
You want to buy 27 flats like Mandeep probably has already, go get it. There it is. So keep your heads up for the Origin Afterburner Pale Ale.
All right, we're opening a fridge here. Well, I think Ryan's going to have one. Here we go.
Payne, look what you're doing to me.
And if you want,
son of a gun,
if you want a pale blonde, you can just watch Afterburner and whenever I'm on. I think I've had one of those already.
Turn this mic off for 2 minutes. You're in the penalty box. All right. Let's move along. Thank you, Origin, for your support. We love your new beer. Thank you, Mitsubishi, for the road ahead. Booster Juice Yeti. Let's Jack, we'll wrap it with the look at the upcoming tournament. There's 2 more topics I want to get into. We talked about Ovi, Klapka. Rasmus Andersson is going to be a topic of conversation because of it's now 2 of the last 3 games he's gone in and kind of stolen the show, and he's been shown that pesty edge to his game. I think he plays better when he's done that. You saw the stare down in Minnesota. Bill Guerin made some comments post-game. He didn't like how his team didn't react to Rasmus Andersson, or Rasmus sort of set the tone emotionally. Again tonight, he's in Tom Wilson's kitchen, who is one of the more intimidating characters in the National Hockey League. Just a thought, because we've gone down this road a lot. We understand he's not young, but he's also not old yet. But they do have Wolf now, who looks like he could be an elite goalie as soon as Meow. How do you approach the Rasmus Andersson thing, and does tonight change anything for you?
Boy, we're going to talk about this a lot, I think, and it's for good reason. I mean, it's a very impactful decision that the Flames are going to have to make, and I don't think it's one that's going to kill them right away. If it's something that really turns, you can re-sign a guy. I mean, Jim Rutherford made a lot of noise in Vancouver today with all the stuff that was going on there.
Yeah,
but he did have a good line that was like, he was asked, why did you re-sign both Pettersson and Miller if you knew it was going to be a problem? And it was like, well, even if it went wrong, I could still trade those guys later because I had them signed. And it's like, okay, it's going to be interesting to see if the Flames apply that same approach with Rasmus. Obviously, there's not, as far as we know, anything bubbling up in the room. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think I've asked you this exact question on the show. Is Rasmus a guy you can trade in 3 years if you need to, if the situation arises, if he's 2 years into an extension? I don't know if the answer is yes. I don't know if he's a player who has that reputation around the league as a guy who is worth $8 million. I mean, I think back to when Mikhail Sergachev was traded, but he was quite a lot younger, but sort of right at the start of that extension. And I was sort of wishy-washy on that deal from the Utah standpoint, because it is a lot that you're sort of inheriting if you're not the ones who are signing that contract. It's always tougher for GMs to trade for those big deals as opposed to signing them.
Rasmus turned 30 in the first month of a new extension that I suggest would be a max term extension. I don't think he's looking for a 2-year deal. I don't think he's looking for a 4-year deal. I think it's okay. Caps jump significantly. He's jumping into the new CBA year, which should see a very significant bump from where we're at today in the high 80s. You're probably looking mid 100s, maybe even as high as 110 in 2 years from now. Cap looks like it's in a spot where it's going to continue to rise. Now, again, forecasting the future, very difficult thing to do. You do drive a lot of revenue in Canadian dollars, which, again, forecasting where the loonie's going to be, not easy. Expectations are built into pricing, right? It's not like, the dollar's going to be lower in a month. No, if everyone knew that, then the price would already be there. Expectations are built in. But get away from the economics 1,000 course here. There's uncertainty in the future, but what Gary Bettman and the NHL has shown an ability to do is, outside of COVID, they have grown their business and increased revenue steadily, and the cap follows suit. So Rasmus becomes more and more affordable as long as his play stays at a similar level. What I'm more afraid of is, rather than trading a guy, it's like, oh shoot, he's just not quite worth it. It's, what if he just is broken at 34? Yeah. Like a lot of defensemen are, and it's not their fault.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of...
Like Rhett was 31, 32 when it all came crashing down. Now, different era, different physicality, different bodies, different training regimes, all that. But how many guys are you going to be comfortable taking from age 35 and beyond? They've already done it with Nazem. They're doing it a little bit with Backlund already. Huberdeau's going to be in there. Uyghur's going to... do you want a fifth player that you're going to make bets on being a contributing member of the team beyond age 35? Because if you want to trade him in 2-3 years, it's not going to be a problem. But if you've got him in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be part of what you're doing. The problem is when it's time to give Perrick a massive extension, or Dustin Wolf's new money kicks in on his second contract. Then you're like, why are we paying our third or fourth best defenseman $8 million?
Yeah. It's a real, and the tough thing for me is that there aren't really any natural comparables to this sort of situation that spring to my head right away. The only one that I kind of think of is like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, when he signed that huge deal in Phoenix and then sort of immediately fell off.
Well, they got out of it right away.
And they did. That's the thing, is because he still had that perceived value. And I just don't know if Rasmus has that perceived value. I mean, the thing with OEL is he was always such a savvy guy who was such a media darling because he was in a market that no one really paid attention to. And so people are like, okay, what could this guy do in a bigger market? Mm-hmm. I don't really know if that is necessarily the perception with Rasmus. So it's a real tough one. I don't know if it's a situation that whichever way the Flames go is gonna explode in their faces. I don't know if it's
it might be just, it could go A or B, and both we
Yeah.
live with, and the road's a little different, but they're both fine. And it could be like, boy, we didn't get much of trade as you thought they were going to get in trade. Or it could be like, yeah, he's aged really well, but it also, we didn't really bottom out. We weren't that good when he was there. I don't know. I feel like people, we're going to learn a bit about how they think by what they do here, but at the same time, there isn't necessarily a right and a wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray area. I mean, at the end of the day, if you sign him, you've signed a good player. At the same time, I watch Rasmus right now even, and granted, he doesn't have much help, but I don't know if I've ever really watched Rasmus and said, that's a $9 million player.
No, but what's 9? You talking percentage of the cap? Or
exactly,
what?
right?
Like when did Seth Jones earn his 9? Where was the cap that year?
That's a fair point.
What about Darnell Nurse? Like, we're talking about him entering in the new CBA.
I guess the thing
if the cap's $108 million, I have no problem with him making 9.
I guess the thing with like a guy like Jones and a guy like OEL is they were sort of clear-cut number ones at a certain point. And I don't know if I get
Nurse wasn't.
That's the thing. But Nurse was a deal that never made sense. I mean, that was a deal that just it felt like the Oilers were outbidding themselves. So
Pike is weighed in on this. He was asked in the comments. Let's throw it up there. Someone asked, hey, Ryan, do you think, that's Pike, not me. Do you think they're going to sign Andersson? And Pike says this, I think they'd have signing him. I agree. I don't think it is the best asset management, but I think culturally and the owners, I think interest in making playoff revenue rather than bottoming out hard, maybe that retool versus the rebuild, all those things would align with signing them. Not to mention they have tons of cap space. This is going to be a problem now.
No,
it's going to be a problem if you do draft a superstar, you're going to have to flop 15 million in front of them. Then you're going to say, shit, Zane Perrick is Erik Karlsson. Why is Rasmus our third or fourth best defenseman making 9 now? This is hard.
Well, and the other,
but again, that might not happen.
The other aspect is things are going to come to a head this summer. We are going to see Coronado, Zary, Pelche all sign this summer. We might see Wolf sign this summer too. And I
think absolutely.
Yeah,
I think Wolf's their top priority. Pelche won't have a ton of leverage. Coronado and Zary have had nice seasons. I don't think they're hard contracts to get done necessarily.
No. But
but the challenge is if I'm an agent for a player whose extension will kick in 26, I don't even know what the cap is next year. Never mind that year. So until we get, and again, it's because they got to negotiate a CBA and there's going to be some smoothing potentially of a big jump in the cap. Until you know what the cap is, I'm not going to go play here's what my guy's going to play for game. Like if you ask Rasmus's agent right now, I would hazard he wouldn't even float a number because I don't even know what the cap is. How do I know what my guy's worth? I know he's worth X of the cap in my mind, but I don't even know if is it 98 million? Is it 92? Is it 105? Is it 110? Like we're talking when you multiply by 8 years, like a huge swing in money.
It's a fair point. It's just one way or the other, you're going to have an idea this summer because you have 3 guys who are obligated to sign or they'll be gone. I mean, that's the thing. Coronado, Zary, Pelche, they are RFAs. And so you're going to know what it's going to be. With Wolf, you don't necessarily know. If I'm Dustin Wolf, I probably don't want to sign this summer because, you got
our rights next year.
You got our rights. And also, if I'm Dustin Wolf, I'm saying, okay, I can sign after 1 year and maybe I'll get 6 by 6. Maybe I can sign after 2 years and I'll get the Jeremy Swayman deal. I mean, or more. I mean, that's the thing.
Maybe,
right?
Yeah. And then the flip side is, we've seen hot, quick runs and injuries and weird things happen.
Yeah.
Matt Murray for sure. I mean, sometimes you just say it's $60 million. If I'm betting on myself, I'm betting I can make another $60 million when I'm 31 on my next contract.
Yeah.
Pike is saying that there's hope that by spring we'll have numbers on the CBA from the CBA negotiation that will result in cap projections. That is the hope.
He's a good man, that Pike.
He's right. I would love that to happen. It's CBA negotiations.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't show up on time and we need a deadline to get shit done, don't be surprised.
They don't have Bob Goodenow in there anymore.
Yeah, no, it's certainly more friendly, and I don't think there's any massive philosophical differences here. They're splitting a pie 50-50. But yeah, how you approach a huge jump, smoothing it, delaying it by a year. I don't know that it's as simple as, it'll be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the agents will all want that clarity for once you get into July, no question. When guys are like Connor is eligible to be extended, etc.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. Or nerdy, depending on your perspective.
Both.
I find it both, yeah. Comments and questions, Jack. Let's do that right now.
Anybody?
Comments and questions. Which goalie will pitch shutouts and win 1-goal games over 50 games? Vladar. Wolf's the better goalie. So, you can create a weird hypothetical where it's a Tuesday and there's a full moon, and Wolf's like full moons, and Vladar, it's a Czech holiday, and his mom might have called him at a weird hour because she was into the sauce. No, he's just a better goalie, Pike. That's it. He's better at stopping pucks. When you remove any sort of bias and roll through the expected goals data, which takes into effect, every goal scored in the last few decades and the expected chance that it goes in based on like 60 variables. Is there traffic? Is there a horizontal pass? How much time does the shooter have? Is it a power play? Like the number of inputs when you're talking about expected goals, like one guy stops way more than's expected and the other guy lets in more than he should. And it's just that simple. Wolf's a better goalie than Vladar. It's not close. There's not a metric that would support the other way. Has Vladar had some rough starts in terms of, the Winnipegs on the second half of back-to-back? Yeah, he has. But his expected numbers would be cooked into them surrendering worse chances. Sorry. The expected numbers remove all that environmental nonsense. It's like, hey, this shot goes in 18% of the time. On Wolf, it's going in 16. On Vladar, it's going in 20.
Well, and also, if you're going to be a backup and you're the excuse is you're playing once every 24 days and, it's hard to stay sharp when you're not playing that much. That's a backup's job.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be.
And I'm not saying that this has been easy for Dan Vladar, but do remember they both came into camp and alternated basically for a few months until one guy clearly won the job away from the other.
Yep. Just the way it is. What's next, Jack?
The defense looked flat and slow. I mean, the defense kind of is flat and slow. Aside from 3 or 4 good defensive plays with the Flames, we better bring up some young D-men. P.S. Pinder, don't eat Rhett's cake. I left. I don't know where the cake ended up. If that's Rhett's belly or the fridge, Boomer's belly, not sure. As for the defense, I mean, if this was a night to expect the Flames defense to look good, no ball. You've got 2 credible top 4 NHL defensemen not playing together. You had the first game for Tyson Barrie since November 12th in the NHL. And you had a lot of Hanley and, Jake Bean's a 6'7". He played.
You know what I loved on the sort of the topic of defense in sort of a hopeful note is Zane Parekh just keeps impressing.
He does.
And that game that he had against the 67
against Dave Cameron,
with him and Michael Misa both just giving it to the 67s bench after they scored, because they know that the guy who coaches that team is the guy who left them off the World Junior team. That was just delicious. I mean, and Parekh, for all the talk that he's having a down year, look at it. He's on pace for 30 goals again. He's on pace for 90 points again.
Yeah.
And he just keeps going.
Well, 15 points in
5 games.
5 games will help you get back on track.
Jesus.
It's too good for that league.
Too good.
Good thing there's a rule that'll make him go back as a 19-year-old next year if he doesn't make the Flames.
Well, he might make the Flames. We'll see. 9 games. I think they'll give him 9 games.
Right shot. Very full on the right.
We'll see.
But yes. Next question. What can be done to try to get more offense? Is there a realistic trade? Huska gets them doing laps? ? Huska? I mean, look, Zary returning would help. Public Payne's got the timeline apparently pinned to 4 months. When does Payne tell us the date he's coming back? You got this all figured out, man. Give us the day, because that'll help if we know what. So it was the Jan 7, I believe, was the day they played the Ducks. Feb, March, April. Oh, he's gonna be done for the regular season. So Pike, this is the timeline for Public Payne. 4 months, hamstring issue. Here it is. ACL and MCL are fine. He says 4 months, so he's not back in the regular season. That would help them create offense. More Zary,
School
right?
of Hard Knocks. There you go.
That's name calling.
That's no fun.
Hey, I'm just reading what you're saying. You said 4 months. I said 4 months.
Pinder is feeling it tonight.
What? The guy was right. I can't trust him now.
No.
He peed his pants. He filled his diaper when we didn't trust him, and now I do want to trust him, and we can't put his timeline up there. 4 months, he'll be back.
You can't.
I saw him write it down. It's 4 months.
You can't trust anything you read these days
on the internet.
No.
Pike, we know you're sorry, not Pike. Okay.
Do you guys, here, I'll read the next one. Do you guys think the Klapka, Lombo, Bishop line looked way better than any Rooney line? No. I mean, it was sort of more the same. I
honestly, I'd rather see Karen's and Pelche and somebody more interesting. Yeah. I don't. I'm at the point also where Ryan Lomberg, he doesn't have to play every game.
No,
I love the energy he brings, but it's a complete wet blanket offensively, and defensively there's miscues. Like, it's just.
Yeah, it's.
I love the energy, but there's a reason that Florida played without him more than they played with him in the playoffs last year.
All
deeper, but it's just what he brings doesn't help beat teams on the scoreboard. It's part of the energy, momentum, get under people's skin game.
To me, all three of those guys are quad A guys. They're fine. They're fine playing 5 minutes a night, but it's you kind of want more. You want four lines that can contribute. And to me, that line didn't really contribute a whole lot at all.
Yeah, and it's been a long run of the fourth line not contributing.
And people are talking about William Stromgren.
Rudy said a tough go.
I'd be all for it. I'd be all for giving William Stromgren a look. I think he has earned it. I think he's a good prospect. I think Ryan Pike likes him more than I do, but he was maybe right to go to bat for him for a long time.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. I mean, he has been the Wranglers' best player probably the last month, 6 weeks, 2 months. He's been really good.
I just would like to see a little more skill. Like, I know you got plumbers. Like, you can bring in Dryden Hunt, you know exactly what you're going to get. But that's already in this mold of a fourth line that they're going to work their tails off and not win the possession battle and get scored on more than they score. Why don't we try something else here?
You don't have to have muckers on your fourth line. Like, it's something
or
where
maybe you can have a mucker and then a couple skilled players.
Right now, the Flames have got 3 muckers, and one of those muckers is 6'8" and doesn't like muck. It's tough.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, will Grushnikov be a thing? Maybe. I don't know.
It looks like an HL thing to me.
Yeah. I think Yan Kuznetsov does anything that he does better, and I don't know.
Solovyov probably as well.
Yeah.
Now you're about to get Perrick entered into the system. Verstevich is already there. Henry Muse is on the way.
Yeah, it's
like where is he beating guys for jobs? They just signed Pahal for 2 years that plays the way he does.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it. I don't know if he was a guy who I would have targeted in the first place. I think he looks, anytime I watch the Wranglers, I think he looks fine.
He looks like a hardworking, heart and soul AHLer.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily certain if he should have been a second-round pick, but he looks okay.
Yeah.
That's sort of my take on Artem Grushnikov.
Yeah, I wanted them to get a prospect with more ceiling in that trade with Tanev. There's no ceiling on a player that has as few points as he's put up.
It's tough
in major, junior, and the HL level.
It's tough when you look at Dallas's pool because they weren't going to give up Stankov and they weren't going to give up Mav Bork. And really, once you get through those guys, it's tough to find the guys with that upside in Dallas's system. But
ask for a higher pick.
Yeah, exactly.
There's ways to add value to deals. We had to take this prospect as the only thing they offered us. Well, ask for other things.
That's fair.
Throw in another third rounder, whatever. Light return on that one. The contract you got in the summer. Question: what if Perrick is our future superstar? How much does that change the direction of the franchise? Well, you're hoping he is. He's your number one prospect, and your old number one prospect is probably the only reason you're in a playoff spot right now. That's Dustin Wolf. If those are your two best players for the next 15 years, you got to have a very, very good team.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, if Zane Perrick is as good as people say he's going to be, and if he is as good offensively in the NHL as he is at lower levels, which maybe he will be. He has every opportunity to be one of the best players, best defenseman, one of the best players, maybe even the league. And it's really exciting. The Flames haven't had a defense prospect of this caliber in a long time.
Like Al McInnes, Dion Phaneuf, what are we talking?
I mean, the thing with Phaneuf that's kind of funny, and obviously it was a different time. You go back, you look at his junior numbers on paper, and they don't really jump.
It's more the style of play than the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with
he was so physical and he shot it a ton, whereas Perrick's it looks like it's someone from the age group up playing down with the younger kids.
Phaneuf's kind of in that Shea Weber category where he actually was better in the NHL than he was as a junior. Where
I believe that he was 20 as a rookie.
He scored more in the NHL than he scored as a junior, and he didn't even have to go to the AHL. So Perrick profile is different than pretty much any Flames defense prospect we've ever seen. Even a guy like Adam Fox, took a couple of years and then he got into the NCAA and was really, putting up those numbers after a little while. Parekh is just doing this. He's done it before he was drafted, and he's doing it again now. And it's really special. I hope, because right now it looks like Wolf's going to be that caliber of player, to me at least. And I think if Parekh adds on to that, you're in a really, really good spot.
Yeah. And again, this is where the whole team tank thing is like, look, if you didn't have the great goaltending you've got from Wolf this year, you're probably looking at another top 8 pick, top 10 pick.
Well,
and it's like, shoot, could you add like a Roger McQueen or 6'5" right shot centerman into this group? And now it's like, you got a goalie, you got the D-man, you got a center. But I mean, give them credit. You know, you don't want to rain on the parade of a group that's outperformed expectations, especially when it's a young future core part that's been, you know, the biggest amount of wind in their sails. It's an impressive story that Wolf's brought them into, you know, playoff relevance in a playoff spot.
Well, and I get they haven't had a great year, but you look at the Rangers with Shesterkin and Fox, and that's a team that's had a lot of success with those two players sort of as their cornerstones. And granted, they have the ability to attract those players just because they play in the
and they got Panarin, and Kreider scored 50, and
and
Zibanejad's a weapon when he's right. He isn't this year,
No.
but yeah, it's two significant core pieces.
And
if Parrick's a star.
Pike mentioned Ben Kindle. We won't delve on it a lot
Hitman
for today, but Calgary Hitman. I mean, if you want to go watch the Hitman, this is the year to do it because they've added a lot of good players. And Ben Kindle does look like a guy who's that trademark late first, high second, Andrew Basha type of guy. And that's a player who I'd love the Flames to get.
Speaking of Basha, if you get a Hitman Medicine Hat series, maybe
Hopefully
he's
he comes back. Yeah.
Maybe you have Lindstrom back. McKenna, obviously a player of note. Yakimchuk's final year, I'm guessing, with the Hitman.
They've traded for Tanner Howe, the Hitman have. They've traded for Sawyer Minio.
That would be an absolutely star-studded WHL series if we get it.
The Hitman are legit. Like, this is the first year in a long time the Hitman have gone all in and sort of made these trades to add these people. I mean, you look at the 2010s for the Hitman, and it's bleak when you look at their top prospects who they had that decade, Jake Bean and Jake Virtanen, and, you know, it's not so good. But it's really legit this year.
Yeah, good to hear. Okay, final comments, Jack, before we fire up a bet for our pals at Bet365. What is the ceiling on Zary? What are the chances of being a difference-making center? Well, I mean, he is a difference maker in the sense that he can create offense, and he does look like a center. I wasn't sure if he was going to be a center or not, but when you watch him attack one-on-one, distribute the puck, play against men of size, create chances, defend, like he's a center to me now, and that's a huge difference for an organization that basically has Kevin Rooney at one end, the fringes of the NHL, and a 34 and a 35-year-old as their top two centers. They needed something else to play center. When he's healthy, I think Sharangovich will look better on the wing as he has in his career, and you're not forcing him to play the middle. So that makes a difference. I don't know that we'll ever see point per game Connor Zary, but I also don't want to put a limit on a guy with the creativity that he's shown and ability with his vision to create offense. He's also not huge. Like, he's going to bulk up as a center and grow into that body. I don't think we're looking at a Art Ross or a Hart guy, but I mean, you tell me how valuable a 70-point second line center is. I feel like that's a reasonable ceiling for him.
Yeah, I think at worst you're looking at a guy who settles in at maybe like a JT Compher level, but I think you're hoping for a lot more. And I think you're hoping that on the right line, maybe he can be that kind of, I don't know, low end number 1C caliber player, that Nick Suzuki, that Dylan Larkin kind of guy. It's maybe a lofty comparable, but it's something where he has the attributes that will enable him to mesh with high skill wingers.
Yeah. And
sometimes that's all you need down the middle. Sometimes, I mean, when the Flames were as good as they've been in the last 20 years, that the 21-22 season, and they have Elias Lindholm playing between two of the best, well, kind of you just need that conduit sometimes.
Yeah, that's
the wingers are easier to get. And to me, it seems like Zary has that skill set to do that effectively if the Flames can get those wingers that they need.
Jack, any other fights to break up? We good? Any other comments, questions? We good? We can go to our bet of the day if not.
Some spicy nuts in the comments.
Yeah, let's get to the bet.
Yeah, Jack's ready to shut this thing down.
Yeah.
He's like, we're really talking this much about a game that had 4 goals. Okay, our good pals at Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. Huge range of markets, including 4 nations. Sign up, open an account today with Bet365. Use that promo code NATION, and you can get into the action. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Here are the tournament odds. They have changed since I made wagers in 2024. Co-favorites at plus 170.
Wow, that's no fun.
Canada and USA. This was not the case 2 months ago, where USA was plus 200 and Canada was slightly favored over them. And Sweden and Finland are going to be the longer shots. We did see Markstrom's lost by Sweden, it looks like, for that tournament, or at least in serious doubt. That's not going to help. Alex Pietrangelo has dropped out. That probably helps prop the Americans' odds a little, although I don't know really where a Pietrangelo stops and a Doughty, Tanev, Uyghur, Bouchard begins. They're all very good players, but different players. Those are the odds. So if people are thinking it's going to be 6-0 games for Canada the whole way through, there might be one of those. There might not. They might be all competitive, close games, but I do believe we will be opening a new era of hockey where the greatest rivalry in the sport is not team versus team, club versus club. It is Canada against the USA.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
we haven't seen it. We have not seen it. The last time we saw it, McDavid and Matthews were pushed onto the same team in a hokey one tournament thing. We need best of Canada, best on USA. We've been missing it for a decade, and it would be phenomenal. It will be phenomenal.
Does it sour you at all, the prospect of cheering Canada, knowing that their number one player, their best player, plays for the Oilers?
No, it's not a club event.
Oh, it does for
Listen,
me. It does for me.
Get over it. Do you know footy or soccer at all?
Of course.
So if you're from Brazil, do you think you give a shit whether guys play for Barcelona or Madrid? No, he's playing for Brazil today.
If you really dislike that.
You can dislike that team, but he's not playing for that team that day.
I don't know. I mean,
so if Connor McDavid goes and plays for the Rangers, you're going to continue to hate him because he was an Oiler once?
No.
He's not playing for the Oilers at the tournament.
Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, it's just there's a little bit of a weird feel to it.
All right.
But I think the States, they made some strange picks to begin with. I mean, there's a couple of Rangers forwards who I don't think should be on that team, and Kreider and Trocheck.
Kreider, I get it at the beginning of the year, but not after what we've watched.
I get it, but they didn't pick the team at the beginning of the year. They picked the team and the Rangers have just been awful, and those two have really underperformed. And I think you put Cole Caulfield or Clayton Keller or whoever else on that team, and I think you have a better chance. The Canada defense question is going to be a really interesting one. I mean, if they pick Uyghur, sure, I'll cheer for him. If they don't, I don't really care. I mean, I get it. It's a best on best supposedly tournament.
You have lots of options. You've got the veteran that's won it all in Drew Doughty. You don't know how ready he's going to be. You will. You have a defensive specialist in Tanev, an offensive specialist in Bouchard, and Uyghur's the Swiss Army knife. They can play left and right side. Not to mention the other options they've got. It is a fascinating choice facing Doug Armstrong and Team Canada Brass.
They're not going to pick Bouchard, even though I think he is underrated a little bit. And I'm saying that as somebody who was just talking about
you saying that means he's really underrated.
But I think I think he has gotten a little bit too much flack at times. But at the same time, he is also really struggling right now in a way that people sometimes say that he's struggling even when he's playing well, but now he's really struggling. Yeah. And so I think Uyghur's got a real shot at it. I think Doughty, it would be sort of the obvious pick, especially from a Canada hockey ops standpoint. But I think
to the vets.
I think Uyghur's got a legit chance. Giveaway tonight notwithstanding.
Okay, that'll do it. A feisty version, not unlike Rasmus Andersson feigning getting kidney shotted in front of Tom Wilson. We thank you for being in the comments with us. If you're listening and you're not live on YouTube, boy, you missed the circus. Jack, thank you for all you've done. Thanks to all our partners, Bet365, the Youth Centers of Calgary, Yeti, Booster Juice, Origin, and Platinum Mitsubishi, who deal with Mike on more than a weekly basis.
They're going to be the ones threatening me after
you
this.
Tip your cap. That's all you do. We'll see you tomorrow on Barn Burner. Thanks for watching.